It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Sam Daher DDS, MSc, FRCD. He's an orthodontist. He's the owner and founder of Daher Orthostyle in British Vancouver, Columbia, which is absolutely the hottest city in North America. I mean, it just is. He's a bilingual native of Montreal. He received his doctor of dental surgery degree from McGill University in Montreal with distinction in '94, then practiced general dentistry for a few years before returning to University of Montreal to complete a master's degree and specialty in orthodontics. Currently living and practicing in Vancouver, he operates 5 very successful orthodontic practices across Canada in Vancouver, Calgary, and Montreal, where he's treated over 6,000 Invisalign cases. He was the top Invisalign submitter globally, 2009 to 2011, and remains one of the top 5 single providers submitted in the world. He currently uses the ClearCorrect system from Stroman, and we have the CEO of Stroman on the show, as his choice of clear aligners. He's an active member of both American and Canadian Association of Orthodontics and a fellow of the World Federation of Orthodontics. Your bio, it's another 1,000 words. I mean, I'd have to live to be about 312 to do what you've done. How are you doing today, Sam?
I'm doing very well, and I'm honored to be with you, Howard, and I have to tell you a story. Some 25, 26 years ago, when I saw your lecture for the first time, I was in awe. So I'm one of your biggest fans. I just want you to know that. And I want to touch up a little bit on that. And it was everything that I've never learned in dental school. So I sat in there, and the way you delivered everything, I was in awe back then. So I'm a big fan as well. I just want to let you know.
Thanks, man. You're too kind. It's interesting. There's when I got out of school, there was 9 specialties, and now there's 10. They just added dental and anesthesiology. But man, your specialty is probably undergoing more change than pediatric dentists and endodontists. I mean, I don't know what's keeping endodontists awake at night, but you guys got Smiles Direct Club. You got Invisalign. You got all these things. I mean, it's like holding on to a rocket being an orthodontist, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's exciting and it's stressful at the same time. Stressful, if you don't stay on top of things, it becomes stressful. And within half a decade, it becomes archaic. Whereas if you stay on top of it, it is exciting. But this is our time. And, every specialty will get its turn. It seems that now is our turn. And being able to go straight to the public and people appreciating a smile, I think is shining a light on this specialty today. There's certain things that we need to work out, but it's an amazing time. These are exciting times to be in dentistry and to be in orthodontics as well.
Well, let's get right to the chase. How has technology changed since you walked out of ortho school?
Well, let me tell you, when I graduated from dental school in '94, and somebody would have told me that when you walk into an office and the first thing you do is you'll turn the computer on, I would have laughed at you. It was ridiculous back then. But nowadays, I literally turn the computer on, you turn the scanner on, you turn all these electronics on. So the practice is completely different, the practice of orthodontics. So we have plastic instead of stainless steel nowadays. So we move teeth with custom-made appliances, which is something that is unheard of. So you have these 3-dimensional technology. And I think where the future is going to come all together is just having that platform, the 3D digital platform, connect all these units together, which is what's happening slowly but surely. But it has certainly changed. The quality has changed. The quality of the life of the patient and the doctor has changed. The quality of the dentistry and the orthodontics has changed. And it has opened the door for general dentists as well to take a glimpse, to sort of pick and choose. And I say, as exciting as it is for orthodontists nowadays, general dentists get to benefit the most because they get to take a peek behind the curtain and pick and choose what they want to treat. So the technology is there. Hopefully the education is going to be there as well. But man, it's exciting time for the general dentist just as well, because you pick, you choose, and if you find an easy case but a difficult patient, you'll pass. As an orthodontist, I can't do that. I can't say that's an easy case but a difficult patient. That's where the buck stops. So we have to do it all. But technology has made all of that possible. Not to mention communication between the specialist and the GP. So all of that has made it a lot more exciting, a lot more challenging as well, because you do have to stay on top of things. But certainly, I tell you, those that haven't jumped on board yet, they'll fall behind the 8 ball very soon, unfortunately.
And you were talking about how technologies. So, I mean, when I got out of dental school, this is how I got out in 87. We thought we were so lucky because as we were leaving, they were installing computers in the dental school and we were high-fiving each other like, we got out of here before I had to deal with any of that stupid stuff. Yeah. And that was back when they used to tell you that if you didn't understand Fortran or Cobalt, by now you would just be some illiterate guy living in a box. And but you were talking about how technology really changed clinical ortho, but it's actually really changed the business of practice management of orthodontics. I mean, you are managing 5 practices in 3 different cities, some 100 miles apart, some thousands of miles apart. How has technology changed the business of running an orthodontic practice?
Well, perfect. You took the words right out of my mouth. So 10, 50, 20 years ago, that would have been impossible because of the internet, because of computers, because of digital imaging. I can actually help. So I own 5 practices in Montreal and Vancouver. That's a 2,000-mile distance. So I'm rarely in the city, or when I go in there twice or 3 times a year to drop by. But the rest of the time, I stay active in the treatment planning these patients. So I got my associates so each patient really gets 2 opinions at once, because I got my associate working on it. She'll give her opinion. If she has any doubt or if she has any questions, that's why we have that iPhone with a big screen. No matter where I am in the world, she'll send me photos, she'll send me x-rays, and she'll couple it with a couple of questions. And then I'll look at it, I'll ask her a few questions back, and I'll give my feedback. So now the doctor has the patient has 2 opinions. My associate has the confidence to know that a colleague of mine also agrees with this. So I give my opinion. So this business model would not have existed without technology, without the internet, without everything else that we use. So she can even scan. She can take a 3D scan, an intraoral scan, send it my way, and I can manipulate it. Imagine the old days where we used to take these orthoplaster models, put them on a table, make sure they articulate a certain way, and God forbid you drop one of them, which did happen to me a couple of times early on, and they shatter and back to square one. So being able to communicate, that's with the associate. How about the office managers as well? Because there are times where, the office manager will send you a text or will call you, say, hey, this patient will be out of town for the next 6 months. He or she is at this stage. What do we do? And go, hey, Helen, send me a couple of photos or send me a scan. She'll send it to me. I'll review it, send her back a reply, and instantly before the patient leaves the practice, they know what the next plan is. Hey, take these aligners and we'll see you in 6 months, or do this or do that. So we have a plan for them. So the business of orthodontics has changed quite a bit. And none of this would have been possible before the technology that we use today was available to us. One of the things that I do is, and I'm just going to take an extra minute here, if you don't mind, Howard, what I do is, because of what I do remotely, I've got a lot of my colleagues. I've given lectures all over the world, and I have study club, and I get colleagues or patients, GPs especially, that come in and say, hey, whatever you do with your associate, can we do the same thing with us? So a few years ago, I started the Daher Aligner Institute. So what I do is the exact same thing. Now we send, if a dentist wants to start an Invisalign case or a ClearCorrect case or whatever the case may be, and they're not sure and they have questions, so they will send me the records or send me photos, a scan if available, and they'll ask me the questions. Within 24 hours to 48 hours, I'll reply back, answer the question, confirm the treatment plan, and off they go. Before the next visit, that patient is ready to go. So that consulting service has certainly improve the quality of life for the doctors and the patient. It's amazing. It's something that we would have never been able to do 20 years ago, I tell you, Howard.
Okay, well, this is Dentistry Uncensored, so I don't want to talk about all the pretty fluffy stuff. Of all the specialties, if I'm an endodontist and I start lecturing at the study club to GPs how they can do better, faster endo, everybody's good. Same with the oral surgeon teaching CPR to pulling wisdom teeth. But of all the specialties, when a specialist orthodontist goes out and starts helping general dentists do ortho, They are not the most popular guy in town. And what I've noticed is that those guys are never from the United States of America. It's always someone from Canada, like you, or Australia, or something like that. So what do your orthodontist colleagues think of you helping general dentist lowlifes like me do clear aligners?
Yeah, well, an excellent question. So when I first started, I started speaking to my colleagues, the orthodontists. I've set up a reputation, and my colleagues know this is not really about selling. So it's gotten to a point where I've got a solid base. I got my doctors that respect what I do, and I appreciate that very well. So when I started reaching out to the general dentist, one of the first things that I did, and I made clear, is that I'm here to help you. In other words, if in my opinion, that case is difficult, I'm going to tell you from the get-go, this is a case for the specialist. So the idea behind it is a word that we haven't used yet, which is education. The idea is to educate the general dentist. So I believe a certain percentage of cases can be easily treated by the general dentist, provided that when that dentist is educated in orthodontics, they will refer the difficult cases out. So at the end of the day, the patient wins, the general dentist wins, and the orthodontist wins as well. So again, education is going to be key. And I never shy away from pointing out the curveballs to the doctors, to the general dentist, and say, hey, before we start, I reviewed this case. This is a difficult case. In my opinion, this should go to a general dentist because A, B, and C, because there's still education. But the easy case is sort of the low-hanging fruit, whereby I know you're going to enjoy it. I know you're going to provide a service to your patient, and I know you're going to make money out of it, and you're not going to be out of your depth in 2-3 year treatment. Then you go ahead and do that. So I think education is the key word here. So educate, inform, and ultimately the orthodontist will actually benefit from having general dentists that are more educated, more aware, and can recognize malocclusion a lot better because they're paying closer attention. So ultimately, the orthodontist will benefit.
So the website where you're helping general dentists is actually the Daher Institute, DAHER, but it's pronounced DAR, right?
Correct.
So
correct.
it's DAR, but it's spelled DAHER Institute.com. So who's going to DAR Institute? Is it mostly general dentist or is it orthodontist?
Okay, so when I first started this adventure, I was under the impression that most of my quote-unquote clients will be orthodontists, but it ends up being the vast majority are general dentists. If I were to give a ratio, it'll be 75-25, actually. And I understand and appreciate the general dentists are the ones that probably need more pointers and more help and advice. So you can go in, but either GPs or ortho. As a matter of fact, I have one periodontist, not in North America, but we have one periodontist that actually uses Invisalign, and he uses a service. So you go in, you log in, and you ask your question, you download the photos, and we'll ask the questions that you want, or you can simply submit the case to Invisalign and allow us access, and we'll modify it, but we'll educate at the same time. Again, the idea behind it is you can't just go in and do it yourself. You know the old saying, you teach someone to fish, they'll eat, you give them a fish, they'll eat for a day. You teach them how to fish, they'll eat every day. And that's the whole idea behind it, is you want to educate them at the same time as you're telling the technician what to do. And a lot of doctors find value in that. And the ones that have been with me for a couple of years now actually end up submitting more cases, but the difficult cases, and they won't need my help with the easy ones anymore, which is good. And I'm fine with that.
Okay, so if they go to darinstitute.com,
yes.
Is it tell them how it works? Are there online courses that teach you how to do Invisalign or clear aligners, or tell us what they're going to find? They're driving to work right now. When they get to work and they go to your website, what are they going to find?
So they're going to find right now. The first stage is to they'll see a bit of information that explains to them how the treatment planning service works. That's what we're working on right now. But what we're doing behind the scenes is we're putting lectures together. We're doing similar to what you're doing right now, podcasts, some lectures. And I want to do some short, half an hour, because attention span, as you know, is very short. So I want to do some short sound bites on class 2 treatment, cross bites, so on and so forth. Now, this is we're still working on that. But right now, what they'll find is they'll go in, they can log in, They can have their own portal, password, username and password. And from there, once they go in, I'll ask them a few questions. How many cases have you done? What's your system? What do you prefer, ClearCorrect or Invisalign? How many cases have you done? Are you GP or an ortho? That's all I need from them. So every time they submit a case, I can review their profile. I can tell, okay, well, I'm dealing with a dentist that has done 200 cases, or I'm dealing with someone that just started. So my education, my information will be based on that. So I have 4 other orthodontists with me. So one of us is always available to reply within 24 to 48 hours, as a matter of fact.
Wow, that is amazing. And this is perfect timing because they just graduated 6,000 dentists in the United States and Canada this month. And
Wow.
everyone that I've been having dinner with or meeting with from AT Still and Midwestern, they all said, I'm almost $300,000 in debt, and we didn't do one Invisalign case, and I didn't place one implant. So I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. I just graduated last week, and how am I going to learn to do my first clear aligner case? What would you tell that young kid?
Well, what they need to do, I know Invisalign, I know Align Technology, the makers of Invisalign, they sort of ask you to take a half-a-day course to be certified. And that course is not, there's a little bit of clinical dentistry or orthodontics is there, but it's mostly how do you submit a case, how do you log in, how do you use our software, the treatment planning software, and so on. So the first thing they need to do is to get a password, is to take that Invisalign course. They're not going to get a lot of clinical dentistry out of it, but they will get the basics. Once they do that, now they can easily identify what we call a Monday morning easy case. They can pick that case, and then what they'll do is they'll just submit it to the Daher Institute. And the question could be, hey, is this a good Invisalign case? Is there a curveball that I don't see in here? Can you give me your advice? And there's a small fee for that. It's not a full fee for that. We can say, yes, this is a perfect case for you. Go ahead and do it. In other words, we're putting the training wheels on, and we're telling them what the limits of the sandbox are. Or it could be, hey, I know I can do this case, but I need you to hold my hand along the way. That will be sort of the second tier. Then we'll go in, we'll modify the clin check, we'll explain, we'll educate the technician and the doctor at the same time so they can see a pattern. So now when they push accept and the aligners come to their office, they know it's been reviewed by someone who's got thousands of cases of experience. And they say, well, this is the best I can get out of this one patient treatment. And they go through it, and we'll give them advice along the way. If there's any clinical questions, they can always reach out to us. So that's what we're doing. And so they can start, in essence, in a week or two, submitting cases to Invisalign, treating patients. And there's no harm in saying, not only are you getting my opinion, I'm getting a world leader to review your case as well. So you'll get 2 opinions in one. By the time the general dentist sees their patient back in a week or two, by then they would have gotten the feedback from us anyways. So basically, if you're just starting and say, I don't want to worry about the treatment plan, I want to learn, we'll do it from A to Z. The only thing we will not do is push accept. For legal purposes, we need the doctor themselves to review and push accept, but we'll do everything along the way. They'll read it, they'll review the notes, they'll get educated, they'll submit the case. The aligners will come to their office, and off they go. They'll just have to follow the instructions from Invisalign, which will be really dictated by us in the first place. Let's roll over 6 months from now. I've done cases now. I'm comfortable with this. Well, now more questions will come up, and I like that. Now it says, hey, I submitted this case. I noticed that when I do IPR early on, for instance, patients don't like that. How can I deal with that? And now we're getting into the sort of the juice of it. Now we can say, hey, don't start off. I'd rather you do the IPR midway because A, B, and C. And that's how they evolve. That's how they grow. That's how they get educated. And that's what makes it exciting for me as well, seeing, quote unquote, my students progress. There's a lot to be said about that.
So do you know orthodontist Charles J. Ruff?
Yes.
He has
I know him very well.
He has 6,000 posts on Dental Town. He's a diplomat of the American Board of Ortho. I mean, he's legendary. He's the reason I was calling you on Dental Town. If you search for your own name, Sam Daher, first thing he says is check out Sam. He's got great ideas. I mean, he's the biggest orthodontist on Dental Town, and he's your biggest fan. So my question is, how much money did you pay him to post that?
I haven't paid him a penny, and I haven't seen him in a couple of years. But he's a wonderful man. He invited me to speak at his university as well to his colleagues, and he's always when he gets stuck on something, and I love that camaraderie. He'll shoot me an email, and it'll be straightforward. Hey Sam, I'm in the middle of this. How do you deal with this? And my reply is usually 2-3 lines as well, until we meet again and we hug each other. But when he needs something, he reaches out because he knows he can get a straight answer from me. So I haven't paid him a penny, but he's a dear friend, and he's someone I look up to and respect very much so.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a general dentist, it's just such an honor that an orthodontist will talk to you like that. I mean, that'll be your buddy. I mean, most of the orthodontists, you ask them any orthodontic question, they say, well, if you want to learn more about that, you should really go to ortho school. You're like, come on, man. I mean, there's almost 19,000 towns in America, and in the rural areas, in any town under 3,000 people, there's not any specialist. So half of America lives in this rural. Same with your country, Canada. I mean, yeah, you got Montreal, Toronto, and British Vancouver, but most Canadians live out in the middle of nowhere. And these general dentists, you have to learn something about it. You have to learn a little bit about everything. Now your job is to learn everything about one thing, but the general dentist got to learn a little bit about everything. In fact, that's why I wish you would, you got all those online courses. The best marketing you could do would be to do an online CE course for Dental Town. And if you just gave a 1-hour lecture and said for more, go to my Daher Institute. So you have some other websites. So Daher Institute is basically where you're teaching, helping people with clear aligners.
Correct.
Not fixed, right?
Not fixed. I do get questions about fixed. I mean, I haven't forgotten how to do braces, but if someone has questions about fixed braces, the treatment plan is the treatment plan. So it doesn't happen often, very rarely, but I won't turn down a colleague if they have questions about fixed braces.
So then you have other websites. So you have orthostyle.com. Is that your patient website for British Vancouver? And then your other website is Daher Orthostyle. Is that also a patient website for Montreal?
Correct. So Daher Orthostyle is that's the regular sort of generic website for my patients to sort of get acquainted with us. Nowadays, I find websites are not really marketing as much as educational. And the more educational, the more their marketing value is, which is ironic. So what I want to do is I want my patients to know who I am before they come in to see me, or who my associates are and what our practice philosophy is, and give them an idea of before and after and so on and so forth. So that website, the Daher Orthostyle website, is for the patients. The DaherInstitute.com is for the doctors that are seeking treatment plan service, and hopefully within the next year or so we'll have continuing education. And by the way, you're on for a webinar for your dental town for an hour. It'll be my pleasure and my honor to do that as well, Howard. So the Daher Orthostyle is simply for our patients to get educated, and that's how they reach us. So I wanted the two to be separate because doctors have questions to ask. I want them to be free to ask any questions they want, which are completely different than the questions that we get from patients when they reach us. And most of our patients make their appointments online nowadays. A phone call to make an appointment is almost rare, let me tell you.
So then I want to be clear about something else. So
sure.
Your Daher Institute website, you talk about Invisalign, but then it said in your bio that you switched to Stroman clear aligners. And before you start answering that, oh my God, I mean, Invisalign was the clear aligner, and then the patents all expired about a year or two ago. Correct. Now everybody and their dog has a clear aligner. I mean, my list of clear aligner companies just passed 30. You got Big Dog Henry Schein doing them now. I mean, Stan
Correct.
Bergman's the biggest. I mean, he's the biggest 400-pound gorilla in dentistry. So is Daher Institute aligned with Invisalign clear aligners, or is it generic clear aligners?
It's generic. It started off when the patent was still when Align was really, or Invisalign was the only brand or the biggest brand. Nowadays, like you said, with the patent wearing finishing, you've got all these aligners. So ClearCorrect in my opinion, is a good company. I met with the CEO. I flew to Switzerland, met with the CEO, which I know you had on your show. What a wonderful, intelligent man. And his goals for clear aligners and his vision is completely different. No better, no worse. People, can interpret it whichever way they want. But I was very much aligned with the CEO's thinking from Straumann. So what I'm doing is I'm working with them and I'm helping them develop what they want. They have the idea. I have the know-how and my own ideas on how to improve that product. So I absolutely love it. So I obviously have thousands of patients in Invisalign that we're going to continue. We're going to finish those treatments with Invisalign. And I still am an Invisalign user, but I'm focusing more on ClearCorrect nowadays. And I see the writing on the wall. Within the next year or two, you'll see what ClearCorrect is going to turn to because of Straumann's support, obviously. But there's exciting things happening.
That's funny because you're Canadian. And when I did the podcast with Marco Gadola, the CEO of Stroman, who, let me remind you, if I ask any dentist, who sells the most implants in the world? They always say Noble Biocare. And I said, Straumann sells twice as many as Noble. They're the number one dog. A lot of it's M&A activity. I mean, they bought Neodent in Brazil. They bought MIS in Israel. But I was giving a lecture in Toronto, Canada, and he's the busiest guy in the world, jet setting around the world. He goes, I can only do it this time. And I wasn't going to say no. And it's the middle of the lecture. So I just filmed a Howard Dentistry Uncensored in the middle of my seminar. And he got to answer questions. But that's why that guy is the biggest beast in dental implants. And that's why I'll also think he'll take the Invisalign deal. Because take the CEO of Invisalign, Joe Hogan, CEO of Invisalign. You can't even get an email return from that guy. I mean, I'd probably have a better chance of having a breakfast with Trump tomorrow than Joe Hogan. But that Marco Gadola, you can just tell he's going to just walk away with his face. Why do you think he's going to be dominant in clear aligners as opposed to Invisalign or Henry Schein or all the other 30 companies?
Well, when I spoke with Marco, when you sit down and talk to him one-on-one, you realize how sharp he is, how smart he is. So his idea was, and it stems from the fact that he already services and have good connection with hundreds of thousands of doctors worldwide. So he listened to what his doctors want. He came to me and he goes, here's what my doctors want. Do you think we can do this? And I said, absolutely, we can. So what I think is, number one, like you said, he made time. He made time for you. It might have been limited, but he's one of the busiest people and he makes time. So he understands the value of providing a service to his doctors that nobody else does. And he's not ashamed of saying, hey, I don't mind focusing on general dentists to begin with. He sort of doesn't mind it. He says, I'm not going to neglect or ignore the orthodontist, but I don't mind providing my general dentist with what they need. So let's combine it such that before we place an implant and I have a 5 millimeter space and I need to make it 8, how do I do that? Hey, let's take these clear aligners, let's upright these teeth, let's create space, let's make a space for an implant. And so his way of thinking, you sit down and you talk to him one-on-one and you see how his brain works. So he's open-minded, which is a huge, huge advantage to him and to the growth of his company and his business. So he wants to provide the doctors what they want, but he already has a good rapport with hundreds of thousands of doctors that when he comes up with any kind of appliance, his doctors already trust the quality and trust his vision. They will jump on it right away. And I think that's probably one of his biggest advantages.
Yeah. And these young kids, they come out of school. That's a great point. He made time for me. He made time. I mean, I know why he made time for you, but he made time. I mean, you're a big orthodontist, but it's about networking. And these kids come out of school, they go back to their hometown. They start practicing with their mom and dad who might be dentists. Yeah. And then I go meet up with them 2 years later, and they're in this little small town of 5,000. I'll say, how many physicians are in this town? I don't know. And then I Google it and I say, okay, there's 12. How many of them have you had dinner with this year? None. Correct. I mean, in the last 12 months, I've had 20 doctors, 20 non-dentists, MDs, chiropractors, everything in my house, me cooking them dinner. I mean, and then they think, oh, I don't want to do any of that. I just want to make a post on Instagram, and they're all going to be building my way. I mean, you take those guys like Stan Bergman, Henry Schein. He probably flies 1 million miles a year to 56 different countries. But you're like that. I mean, you've been an educator and a speaker your entire clinical career. That's why you're so in touch, because you're out there pressing the flesh and hearing what other people are doing. Do you ever think, how can I stay in Vancouver and lecture to dentists in Europe, Africa, and Asia, and South America?
Yes, I do. And I do get demand. So the demand on my time became so big at one point that you couldn't be, cloning apparently is illegal as of now. And you couldn't be everywhere all at once. So because of technology, what I want to do is I want to reach over, webinars or personal connections like this. That's what we need. And that's what I'm focusing on. As a matter of fact, I came to realize I enjoy clinical dentistry, but I cannot just do clinical orthodontics. And I enjoy teaching, but I can't just do teaching. So what I want to do is I want to join the two worlds. So I want to keep practicing, but I want to share my knowledge and I want to share my experience. And and you probably, Howard, of all people, appreciate that more than anyone else. You know how much I learned by teaching? The questions that come your way, and I'm never ashamed of saying, I don't know, let me tell you. But on the flight back, it's nagging on the back of my head. And as I get to the office, I go in and I look it up or I try it. And then I find, hey, I learned something. So I'm always willing to listen. I'm always willing to learn. And no matter how much you know, there's always someone out there that knows something more about you on one specific topic. So what I want to do is I want to keep reaching out. I want to teach. I want to use technology to reach doctors. Just to give you an idea, in November, I was invited to speak in China. I was there. I was in 6 different cities, starting with Hong Kong. And I spoke live to maybe 2,000 doctors. But you know how many doctors I reached by webinar while I was there? Probably close to 50,000. And that was really an eye-opener for me because, you get to Shanghai and you can only fit 200, 300, 400 doctors in a room, but then there's live streaming. And then I turned to the lady who's translating. I go, how many people are you reaching? She goes, I don't know. Let me get you that number. I think between 20 and 25,000. And your jaw just drops. And it is an eye opener. So you do reach a bigger volume. And one of the last thing I want to mention is how wrong and how unethical it is to take your knowledge to the grave. Whether you get paid for it or not, how wrong is it for our specialists to take that knowledge to the grave? Share it out there, and then what your colleagues do with it is they take it and improve on it. And then the next generation will do the same thing. So I certainly want to take that knowledge. It is new technology. There are not that many textbooks out there on clear aligner treatment or clear aligner therapy. I want to share that knowledge. What they do with it is up to them. But, one day, 100 years from now, someone's going to mention my name and they'll smile and they say, hey, that guy helped improve that specialty. To me, that's a good enough reward.
The human condition is extremism. And like I remember when I got out of school 30 years ago, a lot of the orthodontists, a lot of them, half their cases were for bicuspid extraction. Too much.
Right.
Today, for the 10,800 orthodontists in the United States, it's only about a quarter. But on Dental Town, when you talk to general dentists, a good third of them think, there's no indication for bicuspid extraction. You're like, really, dude? There's 8 billion Homo sapiens. Not one of those sapiens needs a tooth extraction. I mean, it's crazy. It's the same thing now with Invisalign. So now these people are saying, and they're saying, well, I only do Invisalign. It's like, really, 8 billion cows in this herd? And you can treat every one of them with the clear aligner. So deal with those two extremisms. Or is there one case out of 8 billion humans that needs 4 bicuspid extraction, or is that procedure dead? And could you treat all 8 billion herd of humans with just clear aligners? Or would there ever be an indication for fixed? Because they're extremists.
There are. Let's start with the first extreme. So what I refer to myself as a non-extractionist, but let me clarify that. 10% of my patients are extraction cases. You can't get away. You said it, 8 million or 8 billion Homo sapiens, all of them to treat non-extraction is wrong. The gingiva cannot afford it. The bone loss, whatever the case may be, you will still need extraction. But we need it today a lot less than we ever did in the past. I admit to that because technology, moving teeth slower, will allow the gingiva to react, the soft tissue, and the hard tissue to react. So a lot of cases, the vast majority can be treated non-extraction, but to say I will never do extraction is wrong. It's almost unethical to say that. So 10% of my cases are extraction cases, even though I consider myself non-extractionist. So, you certainly can treat without extraction, but you can't treat everybody without extraction. It's unheard of. It's not possible. There's also a discrepancy between jaw size and tooth size. Just because of genetics, you inherit jaw size from one parent, tooth size from the other, and they can't always fit. It's humanly impossible to have everybody treated without extraction. So that goes without saying, but we do, generally speaking, we need to extract less today than we did 20, 30 years ago. And I hope that makes sense.
Well, in my family reunion, it's a lot higher, but they say that's because of inbreeding. So then go to the other one. Could you treat all 8 billion humans on Earth with clear aligners, or would you ever need an indication to use fixed?
Okay, so as of now, I started an Invisalign only practice in 2010. My Vancouver practice was Invisalign only. So I did surgical cases. I thought out of the box. I did extraction, impacted canine. But there are times where you get indications where you do need fixed appliances. It may not be braces, but you do need fixed appliances. For instance, impacted canine. I still treat some of those with clear aligners, but depending where the impaction is, sometimes if it's too deep palatal or if it's too high up buccally, you do need fixed appliances. So you can treat today a lot more than we ever did in the past, but to say we'll never use fixed appliances, not necessarily braces, but fixed appliances, that's a tall order at this point. Maybe 10 years from now, we'll say that, but there are indications for fixed appliances at this point of our career for sure.
So the orthodontists, they can't have it both ways. I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. They say, these guys, they go learn how to do ortho and they learn, short-term ortho or 6-month smiles, and they really need to learn comprehensive ortho. And I'm like, oh, well, guess what? You didn't teach them that in dental school, and you won't teach them that in the United States. So what is your thoughts about short-term ortho? Because I would think before a person did the most minor crowding ortho case, that the most important thing would be to learn comprehensive ortho education. I mean, you would want to over-educate yourself before you even started, not the reverse. So what do you think of when you think of short-term ortho, 6-month smiles, things like that? Or let me just ask this. She just graduated from dental school Friday. She didn't do one ortho Invisalign case. How would you tell her to prepare for this? You were saying go to where?
So I will say the first thing you need to do, again, and go back to the certification course by Align Technology, the makers of Invisalign, because you need to get, it gives you sort of a general, gives you a general idea of what you need, but it's not going to educate you on being an orthodontist. There are courses out there. There are speakers, either part of the Invisalign team or on their own. For instance, I took Rick Litt's course 25 years ago.
So did I.
Rick. Yeah, did you? Okay. So Rick is actually, we turned out being friends. And after a couple of years, he turned to me, he goes, you got the brain of an orthodontist, apply to ortho school. You do need to take a course like Rick Litt's course or someone of that caliber who are educators by training, by DNA. So taking just that intro Invisalign course alone is not going to cut it. One of the questions I get sometimes, you get a patient sitting in the chair and they're sitting in there and one lower incisor is blocked out buccally completely. And they'll sit in there and they say, well, after talking for 10, 15 minutes, I said, that's great. It'll be 18 months. I'll be X dollars. What do you mean for that one tooth? And they say, ma'am or sir, to fix that one tooth, I have to move 28 teeth. Not only do I have to move the adjacent teeth, I have to move the opposing teeth so I can change the bite. So patients don't think of it this way, and maybe new grads don't think of it, but they ought to. You do move all the other teeth to make room for that one tooth. So like it or not, every orthodontic case is a comprehensive case. But what I would say is limit your practice. If the teeth were straight at one point and then they got crowded over the years, well, space was there. So you can unravel the crowding by moving 6 or 8 teeth maybe at that point. And these are the cases that you want to begin with. Once you get into 100% deep bite or 3-4 millimeter open bite, you know this is not a tooth problem. This is a lot more than that. And it's more than just one tooth. It's a lot of teeth. But you do start at the bottom of the ladder, get comfortable, learn how teeth react, and then you'll learn how to react in return as well. So 6 months, ortho and all that you're cutting corners. You're probably doing a lot of interproximal reduction or disking or stripping, or maybe the solution is not ideal. There's certainly room for it, but very, very limited room for short-term orthodontics.
Well, you and I are both in love with Richard Litt. He was the first orthodontist to ever make an online CE course on Dentaltown that was from the United States of America. And if you ever met this guy, I mean, he used to teach ortho at UAP in San Fran. Then he went to Detroit. He doesn't give anything what anybody else thinks of him. And he said he was effectively, for all practical purposes, blackballed from the Orthodontic Society. And he said he should have, I mean, it was just, and he didn't care because he's that guy from Detroit thinking, I got a lot of poor people in Detroit and in the rural areas. These general dentists, they need to learn. And what was his course? The question I asked you, sweeping away the myths in orthodontics, the extraction, non-extraction debate by Richard Litt. And I remember taking his ortho course. It was like 4 3-day weekends. And some guy who thought he was all that from the, they're always from the AACD. I'm a cosmetic dentist and you don't understand the face. Oh my God, he reduced that guy to a bowl of pudding. I mean, he just knows what he's talking about. And I hope you put on a course with Richard and tell Richard needs to come back and add another one, because that one, God, it got so many views. It was crazy. So we're talking about learning aligners and all that kind of stuff. How successful is clear aligners right now? What technology is missing in clear aligners? You're obviously one of the top 5 users of clear aligners in the globe. What do you think is still lacking or needs improvement? Is it bleeding edge, leading edge, or is it just done? We know everything about it.
No, that's an amazing question. There's a lot more that can be improved. The obstacles sometimes is the licensing bodies or the college can put up walls. Sometimes these aligner companies, they don't want to spend the money to try or sort of test new things. So here's what we can do. I think if we can include or merge the intraoral scanner with 3D cone beam, now we can see the roots. So we don't have to guesstimate where the root position is. You can actually see it on your treatment plan software. And I think this would be the first and probably the most important step. So nowadays, we move the crowns, but we know that crown movement is relatively easy on a little cartoonish video. It's what happens to the root. That's the defining factor, is what the shape of the root, the length of the root, the width, the volume, all of that has to be factored in, and that helps us apply the right amount of force and align the teeth. So combining cone beam with intraoral scanning, I think, is a must, first and foremost. The second thing I think that we need to do is have that 3D animation being shared between several people. Basically, it could be the periodontist. The periodontist wants to know, hey, am I grafting here? How much expansion are you doing in the lower anterior region? Should I graft pre-ortho or post-ortho? But if you have that if you have the 3D animation and you can forward it to them, that'll be amazing. They'll have a better idea, and then they can make an educated guess. But right now, you can't do it unless you're an Invisalign user, or if you were that user or that software user, and you need to download it and pay for it. But I think it should be available to the public, because it would be nice when a spouse goes back home and shares it with their spouse as well, or with a friend to educate. So I think we need to have that technology readily available as well. We look at CSI Miami and all these shows and how you can get them up in the air, those hologram and all that. I'm not asking, it'll be nice if we can get there one day, but I'm not asking to that point where at least everything can be maybe cloud-based and we can manipulate, and that allows us to communicate a little bit better, but also educate a lot better. But first, certainly the first step, combining cone beam and intraoral scanning, that's a must. And I know some companies are holding back because of radiation. Others are holding back because of the cost of the research. But whatever it is, I hope they get over it, and I hope we can have that available soon. There's a lot more to come, is what I'm saying.
But I know my homies, because they always email me. You know, I always tell them, email me, your listeners, email me, howard@dentaltown.com. But the question, put it in the comments on YouTube. I know the first thing they're going to ask is, well, he didn't say what 3D scanner he uses or what CBCT he uses. So they always want to know the dentist's name of the product. So what 3D scanner do you use and why? And what CBCT cone beam do you use and why?
So CBCT, I looked around at everything. I love Sirona. I like Sirona because the field is limited to the upper and the lower jaw. You're not getting into the you can, if you choose to, get into the sinuses and deepen the temporomandibular joint or what have you. But then if you miss a lesion, when you have a full scan of the head and you miss a lesion, there's a liability. And also there's a lot more radiation. So I picked Sirona because you can simply focus. If it's an impacted canine, you can actually focus in that area, or you can do 8 to 8. You can check all the teeth and just the TMJ and not much beyond that. So you can pick your field. And this is one of the main reasons I love Sirona. In terms of what scanner, I did the pilot study for Align Technology on the iTero scanner. So as of now, I'm using the iTero scanners, but I've already also ordered the scanner from Dental Wings, which is from Stroman. The reason I like it is because the wand is a lot smaller than the iTero. So I love the iTeros. I love all the bells and whistles that go along with it. But the scanner from Straumann is smaller, and it's also cheaper, and it does the same thing that the iTero scanner does. So these are the two main ones that I like and enjoy. And you can scan in motion. In other words, you don't have to scan and stop. You scan like a video. So you end up scanning a full upper and lower jaw with the bite in a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes if you're having an off day.
Okay, so you said on the CBCT you use Sirona. And so everybody in York, Pennsylvania is bawling right now and saying he left out the name Dentsply. It's Dentsply Sirona. Yes. They got married a year ago.
That's true.
And you're only talking about the wife from Germany, not the man from Penn. But anyway, Dentsply Sirona makes 3 CBCTs. They Ortho Foss SL, new Ortho Foss, Ortho Foss XG, Galileo's Comfort Plus. Which one of those CBCTs are you talking about?
XG. The one I use is XG.
XG.
Yes.
So that's Ortho Foss XG 3D. They got the new Ortho Foss S 3D, and they got the Ortho Foss SL 3D. But you went with so they have 3 different Ortho Foss. So you went with Ortho Foss XG 3D.
Correct, because we had a renovation in my office about 3 years ago. And we went with that at the time. Then we knew that at some point we need to change or upgrade or what have you. When the time comes, it just so happened that I treated the Sirona Canadian president, him and his wife and his kids as well. So when time comes for an upgrade or change, we'll go to him and see what's available at the time. So at the time, 3 years ago, I looked at all the options and I liked the XG.
And I actually, no one's asking, but I actually went with the Etch-a-Sketch. I found I could just draw my own. Remember the Etch-a-Sketch?
Yes.
That's a poor attempt at a joke. My favorite Etch-a-Sketch joke is I went to there was an earthquake and all the art at the Etch-a-Sketch Museum is now gone. Okay, so when we talked about so CBCT, you went with Dentsply Sirona. And then for the 3D scanner, Align Technology owns the iTero scanner and Invisalign, and you're on the iTero scanner, but you're thinking about switching to Straumann's Dental Wings.
Yes, I already ordered 3 scanners, actually.
3 scanners?
And I should be receiving, 3 of those, and I'll be receiving them, it should be sometimes in June.
Okay, so I'm sure this podcast will do well on Dental Town, but I'm sure it'll explode on Ortho Town. So I know my orthodontists are already asking, what's the difference between Dental Wings with Straumann and iTero with Align Technology?
One of the main things is the wand. The camera itself is the size of a pencil or the size of a pen. So it's the wand is a lot smaller than the iTero. for most part, the iTero works beautifully well, but you do get the odd patient that has a TMJ locking issue, and you don't want them to open wide, and you're trying to scan the distal of the 7, or if the 8 is present and you're trying to scan the 8, you have them open wide. That scanner falls short a little bit. Also, if you're working, one of the reasons I use a scanner is you got a fidgety 6-year-old and you want to put a space maintainer in there. And good luck taking an alginate. You'll never be able to take an alginate. So what you want to do is you want to scan and send and email it to the lab. They'll make a 3D model, and then they'll make the appliance for you, be it a band and loop spacer or a lingual arch or a TPA or whatever the case may be. So I want to go in and out fast. And when you have a smaller wand for a 6, 7, 8-year-old kid, that's a lot better as well than the bigger wand. So the size of the wand is probably the main reason. The other thing is in Germany, they released it in Germany, in Cologne in March, and I actually had a chance to test it. The results were amazing. So I liked it. It's portable. It is a few $1,000s cheaper than the iTero, and the wand is smaller. So I like it. You don't need to powder it. You don't need to add any powder. And it is collected in my initial hometown, which is Montreal. That's where it's put together. So I had a chance to talk to the lady that's in charge of that, and I was impressed with everything that I heard. Now that it's available, I'm ordering that. So I really like it for those reasons.
So did you meet the CEO, Mike Ryan? What is it, Reinerson? Mike Reinerson in Montreal, the CEO of Dental Wings? No,
I didn't meet him. We were supposed to meet actually in Switzerland, and it didn't work out. So I didn't meet him in person.
Huh. Okay. So then the last thing, the animation. Where is that at today? You said the 3D animation.
What we're trying to do, the 3D animation by Invisalign, for instance, called the ClinCheck. They're trying to combine it with a cone beam. There was talk about it at some point. The idea was dropped for whatever reason. I was never privy to that information. But the other thing that I had asked for, which I was hoping will be available one day, is to have that 3D animation to the people that don't own the software, that don't pay for or download the software. So, and again, I don't know where we are with that, but I hope these companies will have it available. I'm working with ClearCorrect and Stroman at hopefully having that available. That's why they want to make it web-based. So one day, or cloud-based at some point, we'll have that available for everyone. How far is Align gone with this? I'm not sure yet.
Well, Stroman is the #1 selling implant in the world. You've mentioned Stroman several times. Or TADs or orthodontic implants, is that growing bigger? Is that flat? Is that contracting? Where are dental implant in orthodontics right now?
Yeah, well, we certainly for maximum anchorage, or what we call absolute anchorage. Right now we use mini screws, but what happens is you get the aligners, let's say from Align or ClearCorrect, and then you get the mini screws from another company. And you're already stealing my thunder, Howard, and you already have, I don't know, you're an intelligent man. So we're already talking about, with Straumann, incorporating mini screws and aligners so that they work together. Instead of getting the aligner from one company, the mini screw from another, we're talking about pre-planning the use of mini screw, positioning, type, size, so on and so forth.
I want to forget everything about orthodontics and switch to the most difficult. The best part of life is the people. I wouldn't want to have been born in Hawaii all by myself. That'd have been very weird. But the most challenging part of life is dealing with other people. And these dentists, they're scientists, they're physicists. They love math and geometry, cosines and tangents. And now they have to manage staff, and then their most stress is the patient. And when you're sitting there, having a beer with a dentist and they're just having a pity party, it's always human relations between the staff and the patients.
Correct.
You're managing 50 people in 3 cities. So my first question, everybody wants to know, who's more challenging, the French in Montreal or the no, I'm just kidding. So what advice would you give of just getting along with the other cows in the herd?
Yeah, well, let me tell you, what I started with my office manager at the time, who's my business partner now, Samantha Leonard, we started Stream Dental HR. Stream Dental HR is an HR firm or company that will help the doctor manage the team. So, and I found that to be a challenge, being sort of at a distance. I found that was one of the biggest challenges. You get someone who's working with you for years, they quit, now you have to educate someone else, so on. So dealing with your staff, your team members are your biggest assets, but they can be your biggest headache when they leave too as well. And there's legitimate reasons why they leave, and you can't blame them or fault them for that. So what Samantha and I did, we said, well, now that we've learned along the way what to do and what not to do, the questions that we need to ask in an interview, how to set up an office manual. I can't believe how many doctors work without an office manual, so they sort of wing it. And that winging it doesn't work in this day and age. We hire millennials. Millennials need structure. We can't just say, well, if it happens or when it happens or when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. You can't do it that way. So what we decided to do is, based on our experience, based on our trials and tribulations, we came up with Stream Dental. And now what we do is, not only do we provide sort of the interviewing process and come up with processes to help the doctors run the practice, but we want them to be the least amount of headache. So we have an office manual. We just created a software whereby the doctor can enter each, or the office manager can do that, obviously, whereby they enter each employee's name, date of birth. They each have a file on each employee, whereby when the license is up for renewal, you get a reminder, hey, Alexandra's license is up for renewal. Or when you do interviews, what have you, all that information is there. It makes your life easier so that you as a doctor can focus on what you do best, which is teeth, or the patient attached to the teeth. So your staff should always remain your biggest assets. So Stream Dental managed to do that. And Samantha Leonard, my partner, and I, and she's done an amazing job. We've created this software that anybody that sees it says, I want this. How do we do this? So it's a subscription. It's a monthly subscription, and it's not a big subscription because we want it available to everyone, whereby you can use the software. We'll train you on how to do it, and it's meant to make your life easier as a doctor. So whether you have 5 employees or 50 employees, it doesn't matter. It's limited to how many employees you want to use it for, but it always does the same thing and takes the stress and the time management that the doctors spend on working in the practice. You want them working on the practice, not in their practice. So I'm very proud of that accomplishment, Stream Dental HR.
Now, is she in your British Vancouver, Columbia office, or is she in Montreal?
She was in my Calgary office, so it's the third one that you didn't mention. And so the business the Stream Dental got so busy that she actually, guess what, quit. She goes, I'm quitting as your office manager. I'm remaining as your business partner. I go, what? You know what you have to do before you leave? She goes, yeah, I know. Use Stream Dental to find my replacement. And sure enough, she did.
So is she with you now?
She's not. Unfortunately, I'm in Vancouver and she's in Alberta, but we connect on a weekly basis. But she's not with me right now. I'd love to bring her on today.
Yeah, well, that is just so important. I mean, it's just HR is everything. My buddy Fred Joyle writes these amazing books called Marketing is Everything, and I just think HR is everything. I mean, marketing is so important, but gosh, HR is just so tough. So, my gosh, I can't believe we went over all this. Is there anything you were hoping that I would talk about that I did not bring up?
One point is just because, and it comes out of pride more than anything, about I have a product that is called a sterilizer.
Oh, so yeah,
that's
I'm sorry.
Solution.
That's your...
my name is on the bottle, so I have to mention it, you understand. So a sterilizer is a solution that cleans aligners. We got it FDA approved and Health Canada approved it. It's selling all over the world. But the way it was born, the story behind it is amazing. I have a lady, an older patient who's 73 years old. We're treating her with Invisalign because she wants a nice smile for her daughter's wedding. But she comes to me, she pulls me aside, with her generation being private. She goes, Dr. Daher, I want to ask you, is there anything I can use these tablets you're giving me to clean the aligners? They make them look white, but they still smell and they still taste funny, these aligners. So try this, try that, nothing would work out. So finally, I met with a classmate friend of mine and a PhD chemist, and we worked at a solution for about at least 11 months. And then we came up with Sterilizer. So what Sterilizer does is it will clean your aligners in 3 minutes. not only it's antibacterial, 100% antibacterial, and it will kill the bacteria, but get rid of the taste and the smell. And now we're selling it all over the world, sterealigner.com. The reason I'm proud of it is because my partner and I, we personally worked at it. We tested the different products, and my name is on the bottle. Did I mention that? So it really has to do more with ego than anything else, and I'm proud of it. And it works. And we had to test it against any intraoral product whatsoever, be it retainers, Holly retainer, mouth guard, sports guard, bruxism appliance, sleep apnea. Health Canada and FDA made us test it against all that. So we passed with flying colors. So I'm proud of that product.
Well, I just retweeted your last tweet on Twitter, starealigner.com, to our my gosh, we got 25,000 dentists following me on at Howard Farran at Twitter. Thank you so much for following me. I know you're driving to work and it's hard to take notes. So he talked about that product. So I just retweeted that. It says our revolutionary aligner cleaner is to use just a few minutes a day, can keep your aligners or retainers spick and span. And there's this guy's name on there named Sam Daher.
Yeah.
I don't know where that's coming from. And for you Americans, he's so sweet. Instead of just having 473 millimeters, he went ahead and converted it to ounces for us cretins here that don't know metric. By the way, on your Sterealigner, I was wondering about you because you have a lot of tweets about kind of meditation. Are you a meditation guy?
Yes. So I believe in the old adage, a healthy mind and a healthy spirit helps with the worldly health as well. So I certainly am into meditation, into taking a step back, into counting until 10 before your anger takes over. So I'm certainly into that. Well, we're the land of Lululemon. That's all I have to say. Lululemon was, Chuck Wilson is a Vancouverite. So I just want to mention that.
Yeah. So anything else? So we talked about your Sterealigner. Anything else I didn't talk about?
No, you did well. Hopefully next time we will connect. We'll talk a little bit more clinical if your doctors are interested. Or, I owe you an extra hour. I'm happy doing that. Let me know what your listeners want, and I'm happy to come back and talk about what they choose.
Okay, and I know one thing they're going to ask, because I get this question all the time. But by the way, a lot of people always ask me, they say, Howard, why do you put doctor, DR, in front of people's names? You're just supposed to put their name and then their initials afterwards. And it's like, oh, that's very North American of you. I could show you Arabic names and you couldn't even tell me if it was a boy or a girl. And so in Portuguese, it's draw and dre. I mean, so we do all the things we can do to help the 2 million dentists around the world try to communicate better. And we know the DDS behind your name, Doctor of Dental Surgery, the MS, Master in Science, but a lot of people don't know what FRCD and then why there's a C in imposter in brackets. Explain that to them.
So that's Fellow of the Royal College of Dentists, and the C is Canada. I don't understand why they put the C in brackets. So Fellow of the Royal College of Dentists of Canada. And in Canada, all graduates have to write sort of a 2-day exam to become a specialist above and beyond what you go through in graduate school. So it's quite an accomplishment. So that's what it is. Fellow of the Royal College. In Canada, you're not allowed to put anything other than DDS, MSc, Fellow of the Royal College of Dentists of Canada, despite the fact that I was an associate professor at the University of Pacific for 5 years, or a professor. You can't put any of that, unfortunately. So we're limited to that. So I'm a Fellow of the Royal College of Dentists of Canada.
If you speak 2 languages, you're bilingual. You know what it's called? Correct. If you speak 1 language?
Unilingual?
No, American. And the Americans are the only dentists on earth who on their website never bother to put a country on there. They just assume that you knew they lived in Oklahoma. It's like, dude, there's 220 countries. You're writing me an email asking me why I'm putting doctor in front of names. It's incorrect. You don't even have what country you live in on your website. There's a big world out there. And you and I still think the biggest gift that ever happened to me, August 4th, will be my 30-year anniversary of lecturing. And when I gave my first lecture, I never had any idea that one day I would have lectured in 50 countries where I took anywhere from 1 to 4 of my boys with me. I mean, so this planet to me is just like a small little backyard thing. It's really, really cool. But Sam, love what you're doing. I really hope you put an online CE course on Dentaltown. It'd be the best marketing for you. All of your Daher Aligner Institute, your everything you're doing, because I know my homies and they just love to watch CE 1 hour at a time. And those courses on Dentaltown are coming up on 1 million views. And when I ask them, and I say, why do you like the online CE? They go, dude, it's cheaper than taking an Uber just to the airport, let alone flying to another country, learning ortho. And also what they tell me is they're not sure if they would want to listen to this guy all day. So they want to deconstruct it and listen to him for an hour first. In fact, Panky said it was, or Dawson Academy, and Panky thought it was great marketing because they have like all these week-long courses, and they'll say, well, let's just do a 1 hour course about week one. And that deconstructs it. So now that after an hour, they're like, damn, I would like to go listen to that all week. So, so online C is great. Richard List is a trailblazer. You live in the greatest city in Canada. Love that place. It's the only, it's the best authentic Asian food. Hands down. And the other thing that you don't realize this, if you've never gone up there, is when you think of Canada, you think of this cold area. British Vancouver is a rainforest. And you have to see it. In fact, let me tell you this. If you don't do the Alaskan cruise, which starts in Vancouver, British Columbia, and then you sail up for a whole week, and you probably see, 1 billion trees and orchids. It's just absolutely the most gorgeous place on earth, probably second only to Wichita, Kansas. And thank you so much for coming on the show. It was an honor to podcast you today. Thank you so much, Sam.
I appreciate it, Howard. It's so good to see you after all these years. It's good to see you, my friend. Thank you.